Hey docs, we've got another episode of the Chiro-Factor. This one's loaded with science, with research, probably worth a couple different listens. And for sure, follow this all the way to the end because the science continues through the finish line. This is applicable information. You can use it in your table talk. You're going to get an earful about corporate talks and how to apply this to move people out of awareness into action as a new patient in your practice. And of course, this is always great to share with your team. Hey, James and I are covering many different facets here, many different areas of science outside your practice that your patients can do cheaply and effectively to increase their health. There's many factors in health. We realize that. We're going to address those today from the science and the research. But the X factor, maybe the most important factor, it's the Chiro-Factor. This episode's loaded. You're going to love it. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Chiro-Factor. We always say there's many factors in health, and oftentimes the X factor, the thing that makes all the difference, is your adjustment. Said differently, the X factor is the Chiro-Factor. So one more time, I am joined by Dr. James Chestnut, my brother from another mother, and I appreciate you being here. You did some homework for this one.
I did, yeah, I did. I think sometimes it's so second nature for me that I'm so used to either, rattling off just the name of the author or, some things that in my mind sometimes become sort of commonly accepted knowledge. But the truth is, and as you pointed out, the docs really do appreciate, the actual citation so they can go get it and then have that for themselves when they're dealing with patients or whatever. And, they're not always going to flip open my book. There's a lot of stuff in there. So, I mean, dude, it's my alley, right? I love making a good case. It's like, I honestly, I really kind of see myself as a lawyer, right?
Yeah, it's a compelling argument you make. There's no doubt. And today, just for the listeners, like the first 30 minutes, we're going to hit them with some cannon fodder, right? Like we're coming out of the gates with this one strong with science research. Sometimes when you're not there, I refer to you as Encyclopedia James because you can't rattle it off by memory. Like it's just there. But what I'm excited is James opened some books and some research articles, and he's got some new and fresh content for docs that are listening today. It will help you with your patient education. We're going to waste no time getting into it. But as always, we're going to ask you, drop some comments on the YouTube chat down below. Drop some comments on Facebook when James posts if you're listening to this. Wouldn't kill you to copy paste and share this with a friend. This is really good for the profession. And today, James has put some elbow juice into this, some blood, sweat, and tears to bring out very pivotal research that I think will help patient education, but also simplistic enough that it's consumable to where you can teach it to your patients and it will help them immediately. So we're going to talk about health outcomes and empower your patients with some of the knowledge. So what are we talking about, buddy? Where are we going to go with this today?
I think we just generally talk about lifestyle. I think a lot of times people get confused, but lifestyle is just a great way. It's a great avenue and opens doors to talk about chiropractic.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think everyone always understands that. It's like, when they put all these shows on television about medical doctors, they're always emergency rooms. They're always like emergency surgeries, and it's all very glorifying. But 90% of medical doctors are general practitioners. They're never in a hospital. They never do a surgery. But that as we always say, the tide rises all those boats. And I think there's a strategic way to sort of to go about this, which is that, especially now with the MAHA stuff. But the truth is that the evidence is so overwhelming for lifestyle that when you anchor yourself to that lifestyle, your cultural authority, your expertise in the eyes of patients goes up. Doesn't mean you have to become a lifestyle practitioner. It just means that when you can give a patient talk or a public talk on this stuff, or when you can rattle off some really cool self-evident truths to people, all it does is build you up in their eyes. And anything that you say to them is true. It's the reason why they get Michael Jordan to sell shoes. That's or right. Whatever else.
That's right.
It's just anchoring effect. And so the more knowledgeable and caring and genuine you are, and the more incredibly good information you could give them in a 10-second soundbite or 30-second soundbite, or the nice to do it in a patient talk or a public talk like you do, like we're talking about. So I just think just understand, what you're trying to accomplish, and just realize that it's not because you're trying to get everybody in to give them lifestyle care. You're basically saying, this stuff is so true, and I am this stuff.
That's right. Yeah. So a couple things you said, I think, that are really profound, deserve a double click. One, you're talking about cultural authority. Like, hell yeah, because if you're not an authority, then they're not going to take you seriously. So that's massive. What a cultural authority does is enters a cultural conversation where people already have an interest, right? So what is a topic they want to know about? And the things we're going to go through today are exactly that. So if these are things, the cultural conversations happening in your community, no matter where the listeners are, whatever country, whatever continent, we know this podcast has massive reach. Whatever that conversation is, if you enter that with these facts and information James is going to spoon feed you today, then you become the cultural authority. And look, authority is leverage. And then the third piece of this is play the long game. The report of findings that I teach, I could do it in 3 minutes or 4 minutes, but then it's a transaction. What I'm really doing with the other 8 minutes is laying down some pillars that we can put people into wellness care for life. And so it's always the long game. What we're going to do here is give patient education that maybe doesn't move the needle immediately in the sense that it's a conversion or a quote unquote transaction, but it's a lifestyle. You're building your authority throughout, and it's a long-term game. We're always playing the long-term game with our patients. And last thing I'll say on this is what we're going to provide today in this content really positions you as an asset. You're a helper. You're giving to them. And I would say when you're an asset, you are not a solicitor. So even at our corporate talks, our internal talks, if I'm just giving content, fire hosing them, then you're an asset. You never look like a salesman. You never look like a hard sell because you've been giving the whole time. So just context around some of this, man, it's massive. And how do we pull so many new patients? Because that actually isn't my primary focus. My primary focus is I shifted something today. And if I do with knowledge and information, then they're usually more curious. And I always say all questions get answered in the practice. So again, the content you're going to provide is immediately applicable for the docs listening.
It reminds me, Brad, I used to get asked, when I was more active in doing this, I got asked to do a lot of public talks. If there was a local wellness fair, I would be one of the keynotes. And I remember this guy, I'll never forget it. This chiropractor came up to me one time and he was so rude. Afterwards, he goes, "Hey, you know what? If you ever need somebody to give a talk on chiropractic, I'm available." I didn't hear it mentioned, which is not true. Actually, it was mentioned. But what I said to the guy, I go, well, maybe talk to my 20 new patients I got out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because the reality is that all I did was make people know they wanted me on their healthcare team.
That's right.
They just knew after that talk that I was, and that's what I'm going to help people prep to do today.
Love that.
But there are certain, maybe I'll just give my strategy, but this is the point I'm trying to make, which is that you'll have all kinds of time to talk about chiropractic. And if you are advertising a chiropractic talk, you better talk about a chiropractic talk. But if you're talking about a lifestyle or a wellness, a lifestyle talk or a chronic illness talk, and then you go give a chiropractic talk, people are going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
What you want to do is deliver. I don't care. I'd love to give chiropractic talk, and I've done it many, many times. Love talking about chiropractic. But I also love talking about lifestyle. And what I'll just tell you is, whatever you're talking about, if you come across as an authority, the feeling that you want to give is that I got something really great out of that. I want more.
That's right.
How do they get more? They get more by coming to the office.
Yeah.
Right? They don't get more by inviting you back for another talk. The idea is you want more of this?
Yeah.
And they do. If you do it right, they want more of it.
That's right.
How do I get more? Yeah, well, you come to the office because this is what everybody gets in my office.
That's right. And what's cool about this is everything is chiropractic when you look at through those lenses. So, even as we go through those transitions and bending that conversation into a new patient appointment, it's not difficult. And there's 2 rules for corporate if you're doing outside talks that I'll share. One is, does your topic get you in? In other words, do the doors open? So if I'm coming out of a corporation that just is, we're in November of 2025 right now, and if they're doing the flu vaccine at their company and I come in saying why you shouldn't get the vaccine, the doors aren't going to open, right? I'm not going to get in, So, but if I said, hey, I'm going to do a women's health talk, they go, oh, we would love to hear about that. You're in. Number 2, is the topic going to be well attended? So if I was given a chiropractic lecture only, it might get me in. Some places, not in California, they're worried about work comp injuries, but it might get me in. But would it be well attended? And typically the answer is no. So we pick a topic that is going to get you in and will be well attended And then at the end of the talk, we transition into, and as a chiropractor, here's how I can help you, because you've been an asset the whole time. You're not a solicitor. It's a soft close. And just like you said, how many new patients did you get, dude? I got my 20 new patients from doing this talk on lifestyle. And what did you get? And so to me, it's like, some of it is like, just show me the results. If you've got a better way, put up the numbers. Let's see it. And if not,
right. And 20 just from that talk, not the fact you mentioned that I was in the brochure as one of the keynotes, listed as a chiropractor. And one of the things people, if they've ever heard me speak, they'll know this is what I say many times. They think it's maybe by accident, but I'm like, well, chiropractors have been talking about this for 100 years. Yeah. This is the chiropractic lifestyle that we've been advocating for 100 years. This is why chiropractors have been right all along. Like, as you say, there's chiropractic right again.
Yeah.
But dude, that goes in.
That's right.
And then when you anchor that to some stuff that you just told them that they'd never heard before, which they know is self-evidently true and backed up by literature.
Yeah.
It's important.
It's going to be fun. Let's get into it, buddy. I'm excited. This is good. So, ladies and gentlemen, grab a pen, pull out your iPad. This is a chance to take some notes. This is going to be a content-rich rift, and it's going to help you immediately with your patients.
Right. So I always start by saying it doesn't matter if I'm doing a radio interview, if I'm on a documentary, or if I'm doing a public talk live.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah. My point is, I always say, listen, there's two most important questions that we're all interested in: is why do I get sick? Why are people so sick? And what's required to get and stay well? And if you can't answer the first question accurately, why am I sick? You'll never get the second question correct, no matter what.
That's right.
And so the question is, why are we sick? And there's always, I always say, like, Brad, you taught me this so well, which is stay in agreement. And a lot of times I was doing that without knowing it when I spoke, but I wasn't always doing it one-on-one. And you taught me the importance of doing it one-on-one as well. But I think, I don't know, subconsciously, I just learned how to be good at it speaking, because you look at your feedback all the time when you're a speaker, right?
Yep.
And so I always say, only start with agreed upon facts, but make sure that you lead the audience to stay in agreement about the facts that make your conclusions and the acceptance of your care self-evidently true, right? Self-evident.
Yeah, it's so
right?
good.
So there's some facts out there that you want to agree on, but you can lead people to agree on things that make you an expert and make what you offer self-evidently valuable.
And commonly agreeing upon certain facts that are out there is a really powerful strategy to create inclusion.
100%. And it's like saying, I'm not going to make anybody wrong, right? I'm just going to make me self-evidently right.
That's right.
And therefore, when they agree with me, they're self-evidently right. And people love being right.
And here's what's so critical about that is, if you make people wrong, you elicit what's known as a confirmation bias. Right. And what they do is they adamantly dig their heels in and they defend their position. So if you're trying to get them off of a medical model and into a chiropractic paradigm and you do it wrong, there's a risk. They might dig their heels in and you entrench them in that paradigm, not shifting them out of it. So again, what you're bringing up is massive. That confirmation bias, you basically, if you attack their belief systems, they start to defend it and they strengthen their beliefs as a result of it. So now you've buried them into that system. They're never going to come out of it. So really important stuff.
I always say, listen, what you got to do is, what you're trying to do is trying to get people to go, they're in a room of their own beliefs. You need to show them where the door is. And then you need to entice them through that door into a new belief. And then you need to make sure that you give them enough information to feel comfortable with their new belief and sure about it. Then you can start talking about how bad medicine is and all the other stuff, right? But until they shift that. But anyway, so this is there's 4 facts that I always establish, no matter what. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing. And once these facts are established, then what happens is the medical approach becomes self-evidently unscientific and illogical. Medical and big pharma cultural authority naturally wanes and erodes, and your scientific expertise becomes self-evident and your cultural authority naturally grows. And that's the whole purpose of a talk. I don't care what talk it is.
That's right.
If you accomplish that, you do it. So here are the 4 facts that I say have to be established. Number 1, that we are now in the midst of a chronic illness pandemic. That it affects all ages, and it's a public health emergency. It's massively devastating to humanity, and it's the leading cause of death. It's the leading cause of expenditure. It's the leading cause of human suffering and misery. It's the most massive problem. It takes up 90% of all healthcare costs, 90% of hospitalizations. It's literally devastating families, children, adults, seniors. We're in the midst of this pandemic. And so I think most people can admit that fairly readily, but I'm going to give you some facts on it in a minute. The second thing to do is say, okay, once we've admitted that we're in this massive chronic illness pandemic, the next thing to do is establish what the cause of it is. And chronic illness is a chronic metabolic adaptation or metabolic dysfunction issue, right? It's not a bad gene issue. It's a bad lifestyle issue, which is causing a stress metabolism issue. It's 100% not genes. And we can just prove that very quickly because we know that the human genome hasn't changed in 75 years, but over that 75 years, every chronic illness has increased exponentially. Yeah. Cancer, diabetes, heart disease, obesity, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, depression, anxiety, suicide, anything you want to think of. All of these chronic illnesses have exponentially risen over the last 75 years, but our genes have not changed. So that's and by the way, when you put it that way, people immediately go, yeah, that's right. Wait a minute. It can't be genes if our genes don't change and these illnesses have risen so quickly over the last 75 years. There hasn't been, and so people understand that. So now all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute. We have this massive problem. It's not caused by genes. And then that's two facts that are irrefutable. And then number three, I always go, drugs and surgery can never fix a problem caused by not eating proper foods, not exercising enough, not loving yourself, or having proper, mental health or social relationships, or having, life satisfaction. There's no drug that can fix a lifestyle problem. And that's not offensive to anybody.
No. And even the idea of eat well, move well, think well, it's pretty basic, right? Like, yeah, you want to eat well. It fuels your body. It's not preservatives, not crap that's going to slow you down. And most people now know the difference of how they feel when they eat McDonald's and how they feel when they're eating organic, right? Move well. I mean, even after a meal, moving, people know that they feel better. And you can get into the insulin conversation and that stuff. And then your different ways of describing, positive thinking and meditation and those things said differently, that's think well. And so it's all encompassing and it's irrefutable. It's irrefutable. Like, these are self-evident, as you stated. But,
right.
Those examples to people, there's heads nodding already in a talk as you go through this. There's already agreement happening at this point. Love it.
And I always try to make people understand that the reason it's important to talk about lifestyle and chronic illness is because most people in the past have attributed lifestyle to looking a little bit better, losing a little bit of weight. They don't see unhealthy lifestyle as the direct cause of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, depression, Alzheimer's, dementia, all of these issues, right? They have been taught all their lives, well, maybe lifestyle will make a small difference, maybe it won't, but it's too hard, so we're going to put you on the drug, which, by the way, makes no difference except making it worse. But before you can get into that side of it, what you have to do is you have to establish the fact that lifestyle isn't over here as maybe something that may or may not have an effect. It is well established in the scientific literature that it is the absolute, biggest cause, biggest variable determining whether or not you get chronic illness or not. And that's the difference, I think, between people who casually look at lifestyle and people who understand all of a sudden they go, whoa, wait a minute. Lifestyle is the only solution because a drug can never fix a poor diet. Right. And when you put it in those terms, people now are all of a sudden they're through that door and they're in this new room where they're saying, wait a minute, it doesn't make sense to say that lifestyle is not important or may not have an effect. And then the fourth one is to say, once you prove that drugs, because I'm not saying drugs don't work, not yet. What I'm saying is drugs can't fix a problem caused by poor food. And everyone goes, no shit, no. You can't take a pill to change your diet. You can't take a pill to get the benefits of exercise, and you can't take a pill to get the benefits of healthy relationships and self-esteem. You can't do it. And everyone goes, 100% I agree.
Right.
So now I own them.
You own them.
If you're a medical doctor, a PhD, I don't care who you are, dude. You can put me on any program in front of any group or audience, and I've already won. They just don't know yet. Right? But everything that they think is true, I've just proven false. Right? And now I go to number 4. The only logical, scientific, and evidence-based way to cure chronic illness or prevent chronic illness is by changing your lifestyle away from something which is healthy and unhealthy and making you sick towards something which is healthy and can finally get you and keep you well. So back to the original questions, which I do in every talk. I go, so remember, why am I sick? Everybody goes, bad lifestyle. Mm-hmm. I go, what's the only way to get and stay well? Healthy lifestyle. Which drug's going to do that? None. I've won. I could walk away. What's that, 4 minutes?
Yep.
I've already won, but now I'm going to get into it. And just now they're in the new room, but they're like, this is unfamiliar.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to make it so hard to go back through that other door that they're going to stay in my room now for the rest of their lives. And I've done it with millions of people.
Yep. And here's what's happening on a subconscious level is we're isolating the solution as ourselves. There is no competition. So when you leave yourself as the only solution to the problem, there is no hard sell. There is no hard conversion. In fact, you being an asset like this and laying it out is actually the anti-sell. It's the anti-push for a talk. They convince themselves. And the truth is, it's not about you convincing someone to do it. It's about them convincing themselves. So keep going. You're in a good flow. I just want to highlight the genius of
every talk or been invited to do any documentary or public radio show because somebody heard me. Mm-hmm. And they were so blown away by it. It was so self-evidently true that they want to share it. So they go home and share it.
Love it.
They share it with somebody at work, right? Because it's life-changing. So let's go back and start. We'll go one at a time because this is how I do it. Fact number one, we're in a chronic illness pandemic, right? It's the source of all of our misery, all of our bankruptcy, all of our health expenditure, all of our hospital stays, all of our sick kids, right? All of our sick adults.
It's huge. Here's the statistic in the U.S. More than half of bankruptcies in the U.S. are because of medical bills, and that is for people who have health insurance.
Correct. And by the way, it's bankrupting nations. It's bankrupting Canada. It's bankrupting Australia. But it's because we are a taxpayer system, right? So it's bankrupting us as well.
Yeah. But they do offer you can euthanize people in Canada, just get them off the payroll, right?
Well, I mean, what's interesting about that is that the government wants them euthanized. The drug companies don't.
Right. I'm just going to say that. It's like the drug companies are like, whoa, where's our profits?
It doesn't seem right. That's our last pill we'll ever give them. That doesn't seem right. Anyway, So this is what I say. Here's some best sources for fact number one. We're in a chronic illness pandemic. So the one I like the best, and by the way, I deliberately give people ones that are like 10, 15 years old very often because it lets them know I've been talking about this for a long time and it's not new information. And they'll go, yeah, well, Kennedy. And I go, yeah, great guy. Awesome. Can't believe how fantastic that he's now bringing the chiropractic message to a bigger audience. Yeah. But we've been talking about this for 100 years.
Yeah.
I've been teaching this for 25 years. I've had practitioners being certified in this and teaching this around the world for 25 years.
My man, yeah.
So let's be clear on it. Chiropractors are leaders in this field.
That's right.
We are not followers. We're not jumping on the bandwagon. We're the horse pulling the fucking thing.
That's right. Chiropractic is right again.
Exactly. So anyway, the CDC Almanac of Chronic Disease, from 2009, it's called the Partnership to Fight Chronic Disease.
Ooh, this is when it's going to get good, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go.
Everybody should have that document. It's mind-boggling.
Say it again, because I talked over you. And say the name of it again, because I talked over you, and I know there's some analyticals that are freaking out.
Almanac of Chronic Disease, Partnership to Fight Chronic Disease 2009 document.
Got it.
It will absolutely blow your mind at what they've known for 20, that's 16 years. Known, irrefutable, known, and how it hasn't changed one iota of how they care for patients because of the big pharma, big pharma monopoly on reimbursement and treatment.
Yep.
Okay, but they've known this. So I'm going to give you some direct quotes from the Almanac of Chronic Disease 2009 from the CDC. Not surprisingly, chronic diseases have become the leading cause of death and disability in the United States. 7 out of every 10 deaths are attributable to chronic disease, and illnesses like heart disease and cancer top the list of most common causes of death. More than 133 million Americans, or 45% of the population, have at least one chronic condition. A quarter, 26% of Americans, have multiple chronic conditions. That's from the Almanac Chronic Disease.
Wow.
So then I said, okay, I was going to go on and get a bunch of those, but then I thought, well, let me update it. So then I went to the CDC Chronic Disease, published August 8th, 2025. Okay. And here it is, www.cdc.gov/chronic hyphen disease / data hyphen research / facts. Just go to it. You'll see it. So it's the CDC chronic disease, August 8th, 2025. Here's the quote. 90% of the nation's $4.9 trillion in annual healthcare expenditures are for people with chronic conditions.
90%.
90% goes to chronic. Every television show, everything propping up MDs as geniuses is the 10% of emergencies. The 90% that they fail at miserably, where we've taken more drugs every year per person for 75 years and had more chronic illness per person every year for 75 years, the stuff that's failing is never mentioned. Right? So now I'm going to quote again, just so you understand.
And this is 2025.
This is 2025. That's $4.9 trillion, 90% of which is for chronic illness. That 90% of $4.9 trillion represents this: $12.2 billion a day, $507 million an hour, $8.5 million a minute, and $141,000 a second. That's the cost of chronic illness. Preventable, 100% preventable chronic illness. Lifestyle related, self-inflicted, right? Actually, it's government assisted.
Oh,
because
amen.
Funds all the corn and soy and wheat. They fund the freaking.
They're complicit.
They fund all the food stamps where the Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola have lobbied that they have to include soft drinks and candy. Billions of dollars a day in food stamps are spent on candy. So it is government assisted suicide. It's despicable beyond comprehension.
Government.
And they know.
Yeah, government assisted death style. Right?
100%.
Can you jam out those numbers real quick again?
Yeah, okay. $12.2 billion a day, $507 million an hour, $8.5 million a minute, and $141,000 per second. But let me throw something else at you that I didn't include because, we got a limited time. But that doesn't include, so what they do is they look at these two things, and we've talked about this before, Brad, between absenteeism and presenteeism. Yeah. That cost doesn't include anything about what businesses spend on it,
right?
Or the lost productivity. The average person with a chronic illness, and most of them now, 25% have 4 or more, or 5 medications as well. Most of those people will miss 30 to 90 days of work productivity a year. They show up for work, but they're so sick and medicated they can't do the job.
Right.
And they've estimated, CDC Almanac as well, that results in, I think it was 45 to 90 lost days of productivity.
I mean,
so the cost of this is so enormous, not to mention the fact that what sickness does to your quality of life, to your ability to enjoy life and have life satisfaction, to all the caregivers that have to get involved. It is a disaster of epic proportion that's preventable, but not with drugs or surgery.
I teach a workshop called Speak to Attract Believers, and it's basically how to do corporate talks and how to get people in. And I spend 90 minutes sharing at the workshop how to get into companies and corporations, because what you're talking about is presenteeism. People are present, but they're not able to do their job, and the calculated losses now exceeds absenteeism, which is colds and flus and low back pain are the leading reasons people don't turn up to work. So presenteeism is more expensive than absenteeism.
Way more.
And what I do is I just go around the room at that workshop and I just say, tell me what place you want to get into. And the audience feeds it to me. And then I tell them who to talk to, what to say, what to do so they can book more talks. And the cool thing is I can do it off the hip because these facts are leveraged and transferable to exactly what they want, which is a metric of cost, healthcare cost, absenteeism, presenteeism, and people showing up not being productive is huge. The definition of energy is the ability to do work. They have no energy. They're not working. So like you're in such a great wheelhouse for new patients. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. If docs hear this, right, like these are stats and facts to get you in to get new patients.
Go-to for these big corps, Brad, because the truth is a lot of chiropractors have made the mistake for years, and I and you and I are always on the same page as always, but I'm like, listen, if you're going in there trying to sell chiropractic, you're adding one more expense. That's not attractive. No. If you go in there telling them how you can save money, increase productivity, and reduce absenteeism and presenteeism, then they're going to go, what's presenteeism? Then you get to tell them. Yeah. And you can say, I'm going to save you money, like the manga report. the more you add chiropractic, and they didn't even talk about lifestyle, the less money you spend, the more money you save, billions of dollars, so it's like, you got to go in there talking their language, which is, how do I get people to do more work, enjoy life more when they're outside of work, enjoy the work environment more, get more work done, and save money. 100%. Now we're getting somewhere.
Now you're speaking their language too. That's critical. So like, what's their currency? What do they need to hear? We just gave it to you on a silver platter, and then you would change it based on a different audience or the person you would contact. And our Speak to Attract Believers workshop, I offer it online now because I want people to have it immediately. But then it also includes a seat to the workshop. So you can start watching it today and do the workshop in 2 months. But at the workshop is the place where I go, feed me your leads, tell me the places you couldn't get into, and I'll help you write that script, because this shit works. And I can do it off the cuff, unprepared, because I've been doing it for so long. And hundreds of docs following this, the feedback you're giving them right now is exactly the leverage points you're going to need to say. So when I had you repeat those numbers, it was not for my benefit. It's like, hey guys, he's giving you the keys to the castle. You got to organize this. But hey docs, this topic of patient communication education is massive. Where the rubber meets the road and you get new patients is when you go out and do one of three kinds of talks. You can do a 10-minute talk, and I teach docs how to do this for the last 20, 21 years. I've been teaching that because I invented 10-minute talks out of necessity for my own practice. Also, how to do 30-minute talks, or said differently, a traditional lunch and learn. And the internal talks in your practice can be 45 to 55 minutes. So there are three different versions of talks: a 10-minute talk, a traditional lunch and learn, which is 30 minutes, and an internal talk in the four walls of your practice can go a little bit longer to 45 to 55 minutes. Where I teach docs how to do all three versions is one workshop. It's called Speak to Attract Believers. Now, when you purchase, you get online access immediately, and you can start learning from the comfort of your own home with no travel. In addition to that, we give you 2 seats to the live workshop. Whether we're in Australia, in the UK, or in the US, I come to each continent once a year to teach the workshop live. So you get started online immediately at home. And then when we're in your neck of the woods, you can join us for a live workshop with a companion ticket where we put you through the reps. We go through the information. And as you'll hear, we even show you how to book talks in a process that's about 90 minutes in the live workshop. That segment alone, how to book more talks for your practice, is worth the price of admission. However, the price is so fairly set up on my Level Up Mentoring.rocks website that one patient commitment, you'll double your investment on this entire protocol that we teach of how to do talks. The program is called Speak to Attract Believers because attracting skeptics sucks. So attract believers, pre-educated, pre-qualified. And again, you can purchase that at levelupmentoring.rocks. It's online and you get a live ticket. You buy once, you get access both ways. And I'm going to tell you the live version, there is no substitute for being in the classroom, having me correct your talks, correct your language. And most importantly, I share for 90 minutes how to book more talks in your community. And I tweak the content based on the country that I'm in. So it's always relevant to my audience. It's always relevant to you. Levelupmentoring.rocks. Let me help you become a new patient magnet by doing corporate talks correctly, 10-minute talks, 30-minute talks, or internally for 45 minutes, and then how to close softly for growth, because there is an art to the close. And again, the workshop on my website is called Speak to Attract Believers. Get believers in, they're easier to convert. Let's get your profits up and let's make you an ethical millionaire.
And you ask them this question, what are you doing in terms of healthcare, right? Who do you have that's saving you money? The medical doctor? No, they cost you more every year.
That's right.
And I've told the story. I won't waste the time with it. But I've told the story when I was invited to do that, to be the keynote at this huge insurance conglomerate who provided health insurance for all of the municipalities in the Midwest. And I was the reason I got in there, dude. And they invited me and paid me like a stupid amount of money to come and talk, was exactly because this is the stuff that they actually had somebody who had heard me speak go and tell them this stuff.
Yeah.
And then when I went there and spoke, and then afterwards there was, I think, 5 rooms where you could all go. And my room was so freaking standing room in the hallway that they had to basically stop and move me to a different room. I had to have 2 adjacent rooms because all these people had heard me talk about this, right? All overweight. It was unbelievable. It was in Missouri. And all of these people were so interested in it, they all lined up to hear more. And so, yes, it is attractive, man.
And they want it, right? And even in the state of, if you say that state slowly, Missouri, my bad. But the idea is, they love it. They understand
and
that.
They know they're miserable and unwell and have no energy and they hurt all the time. Their life satisfaction level is low. And everybody who has low life satisfaction wants to improve it, no matter what. And they know the pills aren't doing it. These people, I'm not saying they're intellectually aware of it, but they're experientially aware.
Which is the highest form of learning. It's the experience. Like you've already got that momentum. They've already tried these other things. They already know the other system doesn't work. So that's the benefit of bringing this up. They're like, yeah, I already experienced that, which is the highest level of learning. You telling them is one of the lowest levels, but because I've already been through it. Last thing I'll add on this, because I don't want to hold you up on the bullet points and the gold and the data and the numbers, is just the simple fact that when people start to realize that, hey, listen, this is expensive to the company. I've done talks for groups of HR directors in Southern California, and what we would do is book events out of it. So I would go do a talk to HR directors, and then we would book multiple talks. Right. Mm-hmm. So instead of booking new patients, I'd book 12 talks, which we would then probably get 12 new patients from each talk. That's worth 144 new patients to my practice. What many of them knew was the exact names of the people with type 2 diabetes because they were one of the most expensive people on the payroll 100%. For what it costs them every year.
Of course. I mean, we've had Keith Ferrugia from Australia on this podcast, but I'll never forget, he did a talk and then he sent me an email he got from them saying, hey, could you do this online for people in a different country? Because that was awesome. Yeah. I mean, people love this info. Right?
Type 2 diabetes and cancer patients, sadly, are the most expensive. And most of the people in HR, if you're in Australia, HR, they know the names of the people who have type 2 diabetes and cancer, not because
they have type 2 diabetes. I guarantee you they have heart disease. I guarantee you they're on.
And it's not always because they care. It's medication. And it's not always because they care that they know their names. They just know who's driving costs. Like that's how far this goes. So for the listeners,
they've got actuaries, dude. They know exactly what it costs.
That's right. Keep going, buddy. I don't want to slow you up. This is good.
Okay, so we've just established with no doubt that we're in the middle of a chronic illness pandemic and it's vastly expensive and it's getting worse every year, not better, regardless of the $4.9 trillion we're sending at. But at that point, right, and everybody's comfortable. Everyone's like, yeah, okay, I get it. We look around, I know everybody's sick, but they still have been taught that it's probably genetic. They still think that it's probably bad luck or bad genes or somehow an inability to regulate their own cholesterol, blood pressure, moods, whatever it is, right? So the next fact that's crucial is to let them know that this is not due to what they were lied about. I don't have to tell them they were lied to. I just have to tell them it's absolutely unequivocal fact that this is not due to bad genes. Right. It's due to bad lifestyle choices and bad environments. That's right. So as goes the habitat, so go the inhabitants. So go the habits of the inhabitants in that habitat, so go the inhabitants.
So, that's a Chestnut-ism. I'm going to have to hit pause, rewind the tape, say that again. As goes the habitat.
As goes the habitat, so go the inhabitants. That's biology 101. But as you get higher up in your ability to make choices, what happens is as go the habits of the inhabitants in that habitat, so go the inhabitants. So humans, not only have created bad habitats for ourselves, but we make the worst possible choices within those habitats. And those choices and those habitats that we created have led us into the chronic illness pandemic. It's not bad genes, and it can't be bad genes because we've had no change in the human genome as we had an exponential increase in chronic illness. But what's even more interesting is there is a direct one-to-one correlation of changes in how we eat, move, and think and increases in chronic illness. As we've moved away what our genome requires in terms of eating, moving, and thinking, we've increased our chronic illness rates. Irrefutable. Let me give you a couple quotes. Okay? So, one of my favorites is Roberts and Bernard, 2005 Journal of Applied Physiology, one of the most highly respected journals on earth in terms of physiology. And the title is Effects of Exercise and Diet on Chronic Disease. This is from 2005, direct quotes. Currently, modern chronic diseases, including cardiovascular diseases, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and cancer, are the leading killers in westernized societies and are increasing rampantly in developing nations. How could they be increasing rampantly in developing nations? Is there rampant genetic mutations occurring in developing nations? Or is there a rampant adoption of how we eat, move, and think, so that if they eat, move, and think like us, they get sick like us? Which is it? Everybody goes, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes on to say, in fact, or they go on to say, in fact, obesity, diabetes, and hypertension are now even commonplace in children. Overwhelming evidence from a variety of sources, including epidemiological, prospective cohort, and intervention studies, links most chronic diseases seen in the world today to physical inactivity and inappropriate diet consumption. That's 2005.
And
clearly, however, there is a solution
to
this epidemic of metabolic disease that is inundating today's societies worldwide. Exercise and diet, and of course, healthy emotions, which I would add: eat well, move well, think well. That's 2005.
Love it.
How do you argue with that?
Yeah, you can't. It's like chiropractic's right again. And like the way your body's designed, you got to maximize the design of it. You're not meant to sit at a desk 8 to 10 hours a day and then sit in a car and then go sit at a table and sit in front of the television. It's not
As you
it.
consume shite, high carb, devastating high fructose corn syrup,
glyphosate,
trans fat.
Yeah.
Dude, it's just like, if you wanted to design a way to make people sick, we've done it.
Yeah.
So you either think that we're just really freaking stupid, or you think that there's some really smart, diabolical people. Yeah. And I will tell you, sadly, it's the latter.
Yeah.
That there are PhDs in biochemistry right now figuring out ways to make poison taste good to children for money. Mm-hmm. Right? And then they lobby the government, who then lobby the farmers, and then they subsidize certain crops. The whole thing is so polluted, man.
Yeah, and even the example, I give this example in one of my health classes, is Fruit Loops. Fruit Loops, spelled FROOT, is how they get around the rules in food in the FDA, because it's spelled incorrectly. They're not advertising its real fruit, FRUIT, it's FROOT. Therefore, the chemical shitstorm that's in that bowl every morning, it's accurate.
Or they put a TM behind it because it's a TM trademark marketing term. It's not accurate. Or they say contains 10% real juice. I love that one.
Right.
And 90% freaking chemicals, Anyway.
Yeah.
Let me get a couple more on this one. So and then we'll go to fact 3. So one of my other favorites is Eaton Connor. A lot of people have heard of Boyd Eaton. He was really the beginning of the paleo movement, but he worked out at Emory University in Atlanta. And anyway, phenomenal research. So this one's called Stone Agers in the Fast Lane: Chronic Degenerative Diseases in an Evolutionary Perspective, back in 1988 in the American Journal of Medicine. This is how long we've known. And this is the quote: from a genetic standpoint, humans living today are Stone Age hunter-gatherers displaced through time to a world that differs from that through which our genetic constitution was selected. Unlike evolutionary maladaptation, our current discordance between what our genes need and how we live has little effect on reproductive success. Rather, it acts as a potent promoter of chronic illnesses, atherosclerosis, essential hypertension, cancer, diabetes, and obesity, among others. Saying absolutely, that paper that I read was the reason I wrote a book called Live Right for Your Species Day.
I was just going to say, that might be my favorite quote ever when it comes to lifestyle.
Yeah. And basically what it's saying is, it's quite clear that we have the genome of our ancestor, but we've created a habitat, right? And promoted lifestyle choices or lifestyle habits within that habitat that is so incongruent with what our genome requires to epigenetically express healthy structure and function, that it's inevitable that we have atherosclerosis, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, obesity, and you could add dementia to all that.
Yeah.
Dude, it's irrefutable, right? There's no, well, are we sure? No.
I love that line in there too, displaced through time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we talk about ancestral, and the way they approach it is we're transported in time to these foods that your body doesn't even recognize. 6 of one, half dozen of another, but sometimes saying it a different way helps the other part of your audience understand the same concept. So I like that.
I always would say to people in the audience, I say, listen, let's just do a quick experiment, right? So let's say we've got all these hunter-gatherers, okay? Now, you take those hunter-gatherers, and now let's measure their physiology. Let's measure their body fat. How much obesity do they have? How much diabetes do they have? How much heart disease do they have? Are they pretty healthy? Are they pretty physically fit? Do you think they're more capable physically? And they're like, oh, God, yeah. And I'm like, okay. So now let's make them eat, move, and think like us. Let's transfer what we do to them, and then we're going to transfer what they do to us. So we're going to take 1,000 people and make them eat, move, and think like our ancestors. And then we're going to take 1,000 ancestors and make them eat, move, and think like modern humans. What do you think will happen? Will we get healthier because we eat their diet, or sicker? Will they? And everyone goes, obviously, dude.
Yeah.
They're all going to get fat, ugly, and stupid, and we're going to get smarter, better looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's why they call it the standard American.
How can you argue that it's genes?
Yeah. Standard American diet. The acronym is SAD because it's SAD. Standard Australian diet. Standard American diet. SAD. It's SAD.
Right. God, it should be SSD. Standard suicidal diet.
Yeah.
It's absolutely pathetic. And so this is again, now they're in this door, they're in this room, and they're like, man, it's not genes. I got one more, because it's from my favorite journal, which is the Journal of Applied Physiology. I'm a physiologist. It's called Waging War on Physical Inactivity, Using Modern Molecular Ammunition Against an Ancient Enemy. Quote, indeed, environmental factors have been identified as 58 to 91% of all causal factors of the three most dominant chronic health conditions. By the way, it's now well over 95% for all of these. But this was back in 2002. Including individuals in modern day America, type 2 diabetes, coronary heart disease, and most site-specific cancers.
Site-specific.
They're even saying cancer back in 2000 is lifestyle, right? We know for sure it's lifestyle. Yeah. And so it doesn't matter how much chemotherapy you get after you have cancer, dude, you're in trouble. Right. It doesn't matter how many pills you get after you get diabetes, no chance. You just don't recover. And as I always say to people, if cancer was genetic, how can they treat it and you live? Because your genes are the same after the treatment for cancer as they were before. So if your genes were causing the cancer and you have the same genes after the cancer treatment, how the F could it be genetic?
That is so good. And the pregnant pause, just the emptiness in the room. It's like, huh. I always swear when I'm doing corporate talks, there's a point at which you can hear the gears grinding in their brains. It's like, wait a minute. I can't unsee that. I can't unhear that. It just makes sense the way we teach chiropractic.
These things grind in medical schools when I've talked.
Yeah.
Right. I did a huge talk in Wisconsin, Eau Claire, Wisconsin. It was really cool because I got this really neat note after that. It was the largest public gathering for a speaker in the history of the town. Jeez. The second was RFK Senior.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that cool? Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, here's something I wish more people knew about you is you're a softie. I mean, you're all bark when it comes to presenting and going through, but one-on-one, the handwritten notes, the thank yous afterwards, like you're a softie in the sense that like it matters to you that we're moving the needle, the feedback, the positivity, people commenting on posts and, podcasts and stuff like this. Like it's really what you're playing for at this point in your career. And it's not only admirable, but it's essential for the younger generations of chiropractor to hook up to these concepts that I think without something like this podcast, and there's other vehicles for sure, but again, this podcast is kind of linking the past to the present chiropractor in a way where chiropractic's not meant to be complicated. It's meant to be understood, which therefore means how do we make it simple? How do we make it understandable? In this lifestyle component, it is not your job as the chiropractor to make them healthy. It's their responsibility, and you're on the healthcare team. Right? We talked about this before, in addition to, they can have other doctors in addition to you, but you're essential. And then ultimately they've got to do their part for the other 23 hours of the day they're out of your practice. What are they doing? And you're not pushing it off on them in an avoidance behavior. It's actually just getting back to properly understanding where the responsibility falls, and it's with the patient. It's for their own benefit that they get engaged in the process and decide to get healthy. Can you tell me the name of that journal you just read, James? Because that was friggin' money.
Journal of Applied Physiology.
Journal of Life Physiology.
Journal of Applied Physiology, and it's by Booth et al., Waging War on Physical Inactivity. I'm going to finish that story. So the guy who tells me about this talk, so he invited all of the people from the hospital, the local hospital, right? And he said that the greatest feedback he got after the talk was from the internists and the surgeons and everybody. And he said, they were the ones who said, dude, I see this all the time. People come back for the same problems. The drugs aren't working. He goes, they're like that was like this. They were just thrilled that somebody was out there telling the truth. And lo and behold, it was a chiropractor.
Right.
And again, when I say to people in the audience, Brad, when we do best practice, and I say to them, listen to me, if you get this right, if you understand that you're going to get them adjusted and you're going to give them some very basic lifestyle advice and teach them about the importance of lifestyle so they'll actually do it with some very simple things that we talk about in these protocols, get them the essential nutrients, getting to go for a walk, some gratitude, right? And I say to them, you are the single greatest statistical chance they have to get and stay well. You are the single greatest, in terms of ability to elicit outcomes, you are the single greatest practitioner in the history of healthcare. Sometimes they look at me like I'm blowing smoke or that I'm just trying to bullshit them or sell them something. Listen carefully. When you understand the stuff that I'm sharing right now, and this is like a scratch of the surface, dude. I do hours on this stuff, right? I've written books on it, as you know, right? With thousands of references. What you realize is, this is what I always say to people. What major issues in the world of health or sickness aren't neuromusculoskeletal or lifestyle related?
Right.
I'll tell you, less than 10%. And so who else is addressing with any evidence these neuromusculoskeletal and lifestyle related issues? And the cool thing about it is the way we teach it, you can do the lifestyle stuff outside of your adjusting time. So you're still spending, you're still having massive efficiency in the number of people you're getting in to get adjusted. And then all this stuff can be done by email or talks or public talks or like, dude, I write news. I've got newsletter bundles, like including all this information, getting it out to patients, right? I've got a bundle of 50 of them, meaning that that's one a week for 4 years. It's $199. Yeah. I got one on chiropractic and health, a natural connection, right? I've got over 5 years of them of weekly newsletters for $199. Like, this stuff's out there available. I've been doing this for a long time. And what I'm telling you is, yes, I've been in hibernation for a while, but you've made me excited again, because the thing that jags me up is when I get the emails from the patients or the doctors, the patients who have made these changes and said, I've been sick for 25 years, right? And I've been sick and uncomfortable and in pain. And I made some simple lifestyle changes and I see my chiropractor and my life is reborn. Yeah. And I'm like, if that doesn't get you excited as a healthcare practitioner, I don't know what does, but who the hell else is going to do it?
That's right.
And where else are they going? The GP?
That's right. And it doesn't require you to build a gym inside your practice. That's not at all what we're suggesting. Yeah, please don't. Yeah. Please don't. Yeah, it's their job outside your practice. And the cool thing is,
tidbits of information all the time. Every week, give them a newsletter. Have something cool written on the board. Have a topic of the day that you can talk about. So you're leading the conversation, not following it. Give them a health talk once a month or whatever. Do the corporate talks, but do not deliver this on a one-to-one basis during the adjustment.
That's right. Yeah. Don't do it. It's too much time. So, I mean, here's what's huge about this too, is there's different versions of talks. I teach docs how to do 10-minute talks because you can be a part of an agenda, and it's not the ideal, but it's you in front of a group of people and you can move them to action. So 10-minute talks is one thing. 30-minute talks is like a traditional corporate talk. And then you and I have talked about internal talks within your practice can be 45 to 55 minutes. Absolutely. The mind can only endure what the seat can handle. So don't go over an hour, even though you're into it, they're not. So 10-minute talks, quick and easy, big audience, convert to new patients. 30 minutes, corporate lunch and learns, have some visual aids, do some PowerPoints. 45 to 55 is an internal talk in your practice. Pick your avenue. But I'm telling you, to be a cultural authority, as we discussed at the top of the hour of this, really is pretty simple. It's you in front of an audience. And instead of one-on-one, it's one-on-many. And the research articles you just went through and some of the statistics, like this is a content-rich episode where people who are listening, I'm hoping you feel inspired to get out there and go talk to more people, or have them into your practice and talk to more people, or get a short soundbite in a big meeting and talk. So this idea of being in front of the room, that's an illustration of cultural authority, right? That is your opportunity.
Right. And I'll just tell you, like, this is what I always say to my audiences that were chiropractors. I go, are you bored? Or do you want to hear more? And they're like, more. I go, right. Why? Because this shit's interesting. It's clearly self-evidently important, right? Yeah. And it's exciting because you realize what a difference it can make. And so, Yeah, man. I think if you deliver it in a way, people will stay tuned in, because this is the biggest. Their health is the biggest issue in their life, hands
That's
down. Every survey they do, every study they do, everybody will tell you health is the biggest variable in determining the quality of their life. 100%.
100%. And here's the thing: those stacks that you talk about for $199 or $200 or whatever, I would suggest you use them multiple ways. Yeah, you send them to your patients, but read them as the doc, and that could be your table talk for the week. That could be your topic, So there's multiple uses for a nominal fee to be able to do that, where, it could be digital, it could be on paper on your front counter. Well, there's 2 different ways. It could be for your table talk. There's 3 different ways. You take a soundbite in the newsletter you like and you put it in your health class. There's 4 different ways. You got a new topic externally. There's 5 different ways to use the same material. And so to me, ignorance is more expensive than education. Not knowing these facts that we just shared for free is costing more people. And a lot of times they're looking for the next new patient. And I'm all for marketing external, but educating your people internally and keeping them on the table asymptomatically are the easiest people to adjust. So, people look at the volume, we can adjust in an hour. It's because many of them don't have pain. Like, it needs the context. They've converted to a wellness care, and they're in every fortnight or every other week because they don't have symptoms. And also, those are easier spines to adjust. So it's not part and parcel with this stuff. One kind of feeds the next. And this is how you build momentum in your practice. And as we say, momentum cures everything.
Yeah, it's a great way to generate referrals. Yeah, because people are like, I want someone else to hear this.
So you're too modest sometimes. Where can they find these stacks? What are the website? Where do we need to go?
If they want to order the newsletters, they just go to innatechoice.com, and then they can go in there and they'll see under patient education, and they can order these bundles. And so there's, honestly, like I've set up my site to be a total content resource center.
Yeah.
Right, your site's the systems resource center. Mine's the content resource center, and that's why, as I always say, we always work so well together. But honestly, it's cheap as chips, and it's like, and you can bundle the 2 together, and it's even cheaper. I forget what it is, but whatever. But it's like, listen, there's so much content I put together on this stuff, and it's just like, and get a copy of the book, Live Right for Your Species. Like, it's endless supply of quotes for you.
Endless supply.
And anyway, so let's go on fact 3. So we can keep.
And here's the thing is, and if docs want to learn the how-to, our website's Level Up Mentoring. It's not a .com because it rocks. It's levelupmentoring.rocks. And we have a workshop called Speak to Attract Believers, because skeptics suck. Right. So when you do talks, you want to attract believers. They're pre-educated, pre-qualified. I like going to businesses because they have a freaking job. Call me crazy, but they can afford my care. They have a job, So, and then the way we do that now is when docs buy the Speak to Attract, they get the online version immediately, and then they get 2 seats to a live workshop, because we're on 3 continents teaching it over in Europe and Australia. And then and I do them once a year on those continents, that's it. But they got 2 free seats, and then we'll workshop it and we'll go through. And for that 90 minutes we talked about, I'll teach you how to get into more places. Again, the one new patient says yes, you've doubled your investment on the program. That's how we price it. Your $200 for Substacks, for daily table talk, for weekly newsletters. It's a no-brainer. But the final thing I want to kind of put an exclamation point on this is, we're going to have Del Bigtree with us in Dallas for best practices. So best practices seminar in Australia is December 5th and 6th of 2025. We're going to be in London the first weekend in February of 2026. In Dallas in November, we're going to have Del Bigtree. Anybody who registers for Australia or the UK, we will give you the onstage recording of Del Bigtree. And a future episode on this podcast, The Chiro-Factor, is going to be Del Bigtree sitting down with the 2 of us. So anybody who's going to Best Practices seminar is going to get that stage recording of Del Bigtree. Awesome. What Del has been saying is that people are running. If you make yourself available, they will run to you. But they're on the run from the broken healthcare system. They're leaving the paradigm they've been in for 100 years. There's never been an opportunity, but it's a limited time frame until the other side reorganizes, regroups, and the pendulum comes back, and they're going to try and shut down some of the progress Bobby Kennedy's made, who's obviously Del Bigtree's good friend. And he was the campaign manager when he was running for president. So he knows Bobby, they're best friends. So what Del is saying is, look at this as an opportunity for a limited time to take action, work with a sense of urgency, get your message out there, or forever hold your peace. because this is a time where you can't say, well, what's Bobby Kennedy doing for us now? Or my state association didn't do anything, or my province didn't provide enough for the chiropractors. No, this is the question where we say, what have you done for your association? What have you done to help the cause, the movement? Not what can they do for you, but what can you do for them? And that was Bobby Kennedy's uncle, right? Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Ask what you can do for your community. And the rewards will be the new patients. The rewards will be the healthcare, classes that are full and people busting at the seams. Like, this is your chance to get off the sideline and be an active participant, get on the pitch, get on the field, and start to play the game, because this is the first time in my career we have momentum in natural healthcare, and certainly momentum within chiropractic. And
I've been sharing this stuff with chiropractors. I've been sharing it with their communities and corporations for 25 years, long before Maha came out. They were super successful with it before Maha. So you can't do it now. Something's really wrong with you.
That's it. Now they got Dr. Oz running the Make Europe Healthy again. So he's over in Europe, and, they were talking about some stuff in Parliament in Australia that Del Bigtree put together, and the Ford study. And so, plenty of material for our future podcast. But this stuff is out there. And again, James and I are trying to do this as a resource for the profession. Any final thoughts? Any other studies you want to cover? Anything else that I should have asked you?
I'm going to just give them the last two facts really quick, and then so fact 3 was drugs and surgery don't prevent, right? So just so you know, between 1960 and 2002, this is from a report to Congress, healthcare spending from 2004. Between 1960 and 2002, spending on prescription drugs alone increased by 55 times. Health declined during that period. Then I got a bunch of stats here. We'll do it maybe another.
No, go for it. I'm in no rush. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So here's another one called, it's by Hales, Hales et al. Prescription drugs among adults 40 to 79 in the United States and Canada. So prescription drug use amongst adults 40 to 79. It's again, CDC 2019, National Center for Health Statistics. Here's the quotes. Nearly 7 in 10 adults aged 40 to 79 used at least one prescription drug in the past 30 days in the United States, and around 1 in 5, 69% in the U.S., 69% in the U.S., 65% in Canada, and around 1 in 5 used at least 5 prescriptions.
Wow.
1 in 5 people, actually 22.4% of people in the United States, adults between 40 and 79, are on 5 prescriptions. It goes on to say, among adults aged 40 to 59, the most commonly used drug types in the United States were antidepressants, lipid-lowering drugs, and ACE inhibitors. That's a blood pressure medication. In Canada, they were analgesics, antidepressants, and lipid-lowering drugs. So the number one drugs are antidepressants, cholesterol pills, right, and blood pressure pills. Now we can add the diabetes medications, because this was before Ozempic. Okay, Jesus. So that's 40 to 59. Among adults 60 to 79, the most commonly used drug types in the United States were cholesterol drugs, anti-diabetic agents, which are now even skyrocket even more. They'll be number one, and beta blockers, again, blood pressure medication. So after that, I said, okay, well, let's look at the evidence for the 3 leading drugs given and the most prescriptions in the United States and Canada. So let's first look at statins. Christensen et al. 2015, the effects of statins on average survival in randomized trials, and an analysis of endpoint postponement, British Medical Journal Open. It's called BMG Open, 2015. Quote, the median postponement of death for primary and secondary prevention trials were 3.2 and 4.1 days, respectively. Days. 3 days by going on these things that are supposed to save lives and prevent heart attacks. Conclusion, statin treatment results in a surprisingly small average gain in overall survival within the trial's running time. For patients whose life expectancy is limited or who have adverse effects to treatment, withholding statin therapy should be considered. Gets better. Next one, Byrne et al. 2022, evaluating the association between low-density lipoprotein cholesterol reduction and relative and absolute effects of statin treatment. A systematic review and meta-analysis, Journal of American Medical Association, Internal Medicine. Quote, in this meta-analysis of 21 randomized clinical trials in primary and secondary prevention that was examined the efficacy of statins in reducing total mortality and cardiovascular outcomes, there was significant heterogeneity, but all reductions but also reductions in the absolute risk. I'll explain in a minute, but I'm going to give you this is exact quote. They're going to talk about relative risk reduction and absolute risk reduction. So the reductions in absolute risk of 0.8% for all-cause mortality, 1.3% for myocardial infarction, and 0.4% for stroke. And those randomized to treatment with statins compared with control. With the relative risk reductions, 9%, 29%, and 14%. That's how much it goes up if they do relative versus absolute. So what they're saying here is there's no benefit. Literally, a 1% difference between a sugar pill and years of cholesterol medication for stroke, all-cause mortality, and myocardial infarction. They go on to say, a meta-regression was inconclusive regarding the association between the magnitude of statin-induced LDL-C reduction and all-cause mortality, myocardial infarction, or stroke. Clinical meaning, quote. The study suggests that the absolute benefits of statins are modest. Modest, they're non-existent. There's no clinically meaningful difference. May not be strongly mediated through the degree of LDL-C reduction and should be communicated to patients as part of informed clinical decision-making, as well as to inform clinical guidelines and policy. What they're saying is may not be strongly mediated through the reduction of LDL because they now know reducing LDL cholesterol isn't the effect, and if statins have any positive effect at all, it's on inflammation.
Right.
So the data is clear. The leading prescribed drugs, millions of pills consumed a day, right, has no benefit, no evidence of benefit. And then I go on to talk about blood pressure. Same thing, no benefit. Then I've got a couple of. They've got a Cochrane database on.
Go for it.
All right. Diao et al. Pharmacotherapy for mild hypertension. Cochrane database of reviews, 2012. Their conclusion: no evidence that the benefits of treatment outweigh the harms. There's another one from way back in 1994. Thurmer et al. Is blood pressure treatment as effective in the population setting as it is in the controlled trials? Results from a prospective study, Journal of Hypertension, April 1994. Quote, the effective treatment on blood pressure was small and the attainment of reasonable target blood pressures was rare. Quote, blood pressure treatment was associated with increased death in most risk strata and at pretreatment systolic blood pressures up to 184 milligrams per mercury. A particularly high mortality rate was found when blood pressure increased despite treatment and at low pretreatment blood pressures. In other words, now they're putting them on people with very low blood pressure, and those people die even more. According to Cox proportional hazard analyses, controlling for pretreatment blood pressure, cholesterol, age, smoking, and body mass index, the relative risk of coronary heart disease death in the treatment group was 1.8 times greater than the no treatment group.
Holy cow.
Almost double the risk of death, right? From coronary heart disease on blood pressure medications versus not.
And this is where you have the data that says you're almost double, the likelihood of dying.
Right.
That's the statistical, analytical, objective information. And then they put a subjective word, like the previous article was, modest improvements. Right. So that's always what bugs me is like we have the objective data and the information there. And then they put a subjective descriptor like modest. It's like, how did you get there?
Dude, these people are deliberately fraudulent scumbags. Mm-hmm. The problem is medical doctors don't have the ability to discern the literature to know that they're being conned and lied to. And then because of all of their cultural authority, all of their money, everything else is tied directly to prescribing these things and pretending that they're the God's gift to health, is that these people don't even do the work, right? So it's right. They're not even aware of how unaware they are. It's like the unknown unknowns, and it's pathetic. But I'll give you one more. So, yes. So the leading drugs are cholesterol meds, no benefit. Antihypertensive, no benefit. Actually, risk. Yeah. Now I'm going to talk about the third leading one. Actually, the first leading one at 40 to 59 is antidepressants. So this is a study. Cutliff and Lakeman, 2010, Archives of Psychiatric Nursing, Volume 24, Number 2. Quote, according to Barkman, antidepressants are the most widely prescribed medication in the United States. Prescriptions have exceeded those of anti-cholesterol, antihypertensives, and analgesics. A total of 232.7 million prescriptions were were written by physicians last year, so that would have made it in 2009. Same year the almanac came out. 25 million more than in 2003. Nearly one antidepressant prescription per person. I'm going to quote again. Similarly, a recent meta-analysis examining the efficacy of antidepressants, including unpublished studies, found that antidepressants were no better than placebo in treating anything but the most severe depression, and even in severe depression, the differences versus control were negligible. Quote, in Canada, depression is the fastest rising diagnosis made by office-based physicians, meaning GPs. Consultations for depression have almost doubled since 1994, and 81% of these consultations resulted in prescription of an antidepressant drug.
Jeez.
Dude, they don't work. They get a 2-minute interview by a GP who has no psychiatric training, and they're prescribed an antidepressant like candy, which ruins your sex life, makes you suicidal, makes you aggressive. I haven't even got into the ADHD drugs for kids. Same shit. No evidence, horrible aggression, no benefits to learning or to grades. And then this is a really good one for everybody. Hunt et al. Hunt. The Changing Face of Chronic Illness Management in Primary Care. Annals of Family Medicine, 2012. Okay, direct quote. Spending on prescription drugs in the United States has risen nearly sixfold, 600% since 1990. 600 times. Jeez. Adverse drug reactions reported by the Food and Drug Administration tripled between 1995 and 2005, and research finds these reactions are the fourth leading cause of death in the United States. That's published in the Annals of Family Medicine.
Fourth leading cause of death.
Yep. Quote, we noted a common scenario. Patients began medication after having moderately elevated test results, often at levels that were considered normal just a few years ago, developed additional symptoms, were found to have values moving outside reference ranges on other tests, and were prescribed more drugs. They were expected to continue these medications permanently. Their target laboratory levels could be achieved only through continued use of the drugs. And that paper, which everyone should get because it goes on and says why they do it, the financial incentives to do it, how the patients are absolutely suffering and miserable, but they don't care because they just look at the number on the test. It's shocking. So
what's the name of that study again?
Hunt et al., The Changing Face of Chronic Illness Management in Primary Care, Annals of Family Medicine, 2012. So there's the 3 facts done. I just got one more, right?
Yep.
So we're in a pandemic. It's not caused by genes, it's caused by lifestyle. Drugs don't work. Fact number 4. The only logical, scientific, evidence-based way to prevent or cure illness is with healthy lifestyle. The lifestyle that chiropractors have been advocating for over 100 years. Fact. Okay, so a couple studies. Chow et al. Environment and genetic activation above a brain adipocyte BDNF leptin axis causes cancer remission and inhibition, published in the journal Cell 2010. Don't worry about the terms.
Right.
They take these mice, they inject them so that they start to develop tumors. They've got these they've got these things that they can inject them with, right? And they can cause cancer. Then they study how to treat the cancer. That's what they do, right?
Sure.
So they had 2 groups. Normal way they study cancer in rats. They're in, I think, 1 or 2 to a cage, and the cage is just normal. It's got a little thing to eat, and it's got a thing for water. They compare that to a group that has these cages that have 10 rats in it. They can socialize. They got running wheels. They got little mazes to go through for fun, and they have water, and they didn't change the food. Food was the same. Only difference was their ability to move around and socialize. Well, the results were so profound that these researchers were like blown away that the rats in the better environment didn't start to develop cancer when they were injected with these cancer-causing agents, but the other rats all did and died. So they're like, something's wrong. We got to redo the study. So they did. So this time, what they did was they said, we're going to inject all the rats with the. We're not going to divide the rats. We're going to inject them first, let them start to develop cancers, then separate them. Right? So they did. Same results. So then they said, this can't be right. So then they let the tumors grow. I think the stage 2 or 3, then they separated them, right? Well, the rats who went to the healthier environment, no change in food, just in terms of socialization and movement, their immune systems ate the tumors. Let me give you a couple quotes from this study.
Love it.
We show here that the enriched environment, and I always say, shut the F up. It's not an enriched environment. It's a normal, normal environment.
Yeah.
It's not enriched. It's just normal, right? Anyway, we show here that the enriched environment, I guess it's enriched compared to being in a cage by yourself, sons of bitches. Anyway, leads to remarkable suppression of cancer proliferation in all 3 models tested, even when delayed until the tumor was well established. The mice also showed improved immune function, body composition, insulin metabolism, leptin levels, and learning and memory ability and overall health. The only difference was that they allowed them to socialize and move around. Okay? That's the one. Now, I'm going to give you another one.
Love this. I love this. By the way, this is a free podcast called The Chiro-Factor, ladies and gentlemen, and we could appreciate some comments, some sharing, positivity. Put some things down below. Post it, repost it, share it. Like, we need your help because James put hours into this research, right? But for this episode, you put hours into this. I would love for some docs to share this and keep promoting, but don't let me slow you down. Keep going, buddy.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the good news is a lot of this I've already got in the talks, right? Including the ones that, that you and I are going to help people give to their patients. But anyway, so here's another one. DNA is not destiny. This is by Ethan Waters. DNA is not destiny. The new science of epigenetics rewrites the rules of disease, heredity, and identity. Published in Discover magazine 2006, and it was based on a study by Randy Girdle and Bruce Water. So if you've ever heard my interview with Bruce Lipton, Bruce and I talk about this a lot. And this is, gosh, that's 10 or 15 years ago now, but it's a phenomenal interview. I think I still have it on my website. I'll make sure I do, and I'll put it up there for free because it's just a phenomenal talk with Bruce Lipton and I. And I started at the macro level and worked my way all the way down to DNA. Right. And he worked his way from DNA all the way up to the macro level, and we had the exact same studies to quote and conclusions all the way through.
I love it because he started his career looking at petri dishes and worked his way up to the big idea, and you started with the big idea to get granular. I love it.
It was really cool.
He's a good friend. I've had him speak.
What a gracious human being, and what a brilliant human being. But it was like we were both just giddy, right? Yeah. It was a really neat interview.
He's a good friend, man. I did a bunch of interviews with him through COVID, and the guy is just relentless. His energy, his positivity. Bruce Lipton's awesome.
Yeah, love him. Anyway, so I'm going to give you a couple quotes from this. So here's what they did in this study. So for literally thousands of generations of rats, right? Because they breed quickly, and 3 or 4 generations of cancer researchers who have the brightest minds and the most money in the history of the world, right? That's who goes into these things. Yep. They've been studying cancer and never been able to cure. And they use these mice. They're called agouti mice. They're the only patented living organism, well, until recently. And so these agouti mice, they use these agouti mice because what happens is they have this gene which they've identified as the agouti gene, and it makes them, instead of being brown, they're yellow. Instead of being slender, they're huge and obese, and they die early. Right? So of cancers and all kinds of, right? And so they use these agouti mice because they to study cancer treatments, because they're trying to stop these agouti mice from dying of cancer with these treatments, because they know if they have this gene, they're going to die early of cancer, because they have been for thousands of generations of agouti mice.
Did you say patented species?
A patented organism. So it's not the whole species, but these agouti mice, this guy agouti, they actually patent the breeding of them and sell them to research labs.
That's
so wild. So here's what they did. They said, well, you know what? This guy Girdle and Waddle, and they came about and they said, we're going to do a study, and we're not going to do the standard classic cancer research. We're actually going to look at nutrition. And they were laughed at. They were people humiliated them, called them idiots. Cancer's genetic. What a waste of time. They had trouble getting funding. It's a really interesting story, right? So here's what they did. They changed the diet. Didn't put them in the enriched environment, right? Like the Chow study. Left them in the same cages, but they just changed the diet. That's the only thing they did. Let me read the results to you. Quote, typically when agouti mice breed, most of the offspring are identical to parents, just as yellow, fat as pincushions, and susceptible to life-shortening disease. The parent mice in Girdle and Waddle's experiment, however, produced a majority of offspring that looked altogether different. After billions of dollars, decades of research, no one could ever do this. Here's what they produced. Quote, these young mice were slender and mousy brown, Moreover, they did not display their parents' susceptibility to cancer and diabetes and lived to a spry old age. The effects of the agouti gene had been virtually erased. They all still had the agouti gene. They just didn't express it because they weren't eating a toxic diet.
Love it.
It's not the genes we possess, it's the genes we express. And so, again, proving that it's lifestyle. These mice, all of these people were convinced that cancer was genetic. And then these people proved, right? Better than any cancer treatment ever studied.
Right.
These mice.
And that's one of the things I talked to Bruce Lipton about was that Dean Ornish study about switching on and turning off genes, right? Lifestyle switches on, turns them off. And, depending on how you live, are you susceptible to these problems or not? It absolutely illustrates what we're talking about here. And this is the same idea of like, you can end a generational curse of obesity. You can end the epidemic of poor me, bad genes. It's like, no, it's how you live that activates or deactivates the threats.
And your parents can produce a genetic expression pattern in you. If you have unhealthy parents, you can be born with an unhealthy genetic expression pattern that makes you susceptible, but it's not a genetic possession. Right. That makes you, and then if you change your lifestyle, you'll change that expression back. But you could be already metabolically sort of compromised towards a risk because of how your parents lived, right? And so what happens with these genes is that the epigenome, what they used to wash off the code of the epigenome because it was in the way of getting to what they thought was the most important part, which was the DNA codes, right? The genetic codes, ACGU or ATGC, I should say, because I'm talking it's DNA, not mRNA. But anyway, so they were washing the stuff up, but what they found out was this epigenome with this coding on top of the genes, it has to shift to allow the gene to be photocopied to take it into the cytoplasm to create the protein. And so the recipe stays the same no matter what, but what page is flipped to in that recipe book is determined by the epigenome configuration, right? The genes are not actually turned on or off. It's either made available to photocopy and be expressed or not. But the thing that determines whether or not it's available to be photocopied and expressed is the configuration of this epigenome. And lo and behold, what determines the configuration of the epigenome? The environment, lifestyle choices. It doesn't matter where you go to the cellular level or you go to the macro level, right? It's all the same. And so it's just absolutely clear that lifestyle is the only solution. I'm going to give them a couple more and then we'll go. Yeah. I'm not going to give you the quotes. I'm just going to give you the articles. But another one's a great book called Allostasis, Homeostasis, and the Cost of Physiological Adaptation by Peter Sterling. And he talks about the allostatic model, which means that they're basically now proven that homeostasis is a ridiculous model. You're not supposed to be in homeostasis if you're on an iceberg or if you're at altitude. You're supposed to make more red blood cells to adapt to your environment. So your physiology is supposed to match your environmental demand, not remain in homeostasis, which is why your blood pressure and heart rate go up when you're on a treadmill. That doesn't mean you're sick. It means you're adapting to the demand of your of life.
And I've heard you call this homeodynamics.
Yeah, it is, but exactly right. So basically what you're saying is that you're not striving for homeostasis. You're striving to produce a physiology and a metabolism that matches your life demand. Yeah. And so if your life demand is high and your physiology is high, that's not a time to come in and your blood pressure goes up because your demand is high. You don't want to take a medication to lower your blood because when you do, your brain, your subconscious brain, right, that controls and regulates your metabolism, if that blood pressure is artificially lowered with a drug, but the demand is high, it will actually produce more of the biochemistry and neurobiochemistry to increase that blood pressure, which it did in the first place. And then you go off the drug and it skyrockets. Long story, but it's just when you begin to understand why drugs can never work and why they're so toxic. But anyway, what he says is that the allostasis model identifies a paradox. People are dying, but their internal regulatory mechanisms are intact. Their innate intelligence is fine.
Right.
So where should we intervene is the question. He says, if the prolonged deviation from normal cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, body weight, moods, digestion, fertility, if the normal values, if deviation from the normal values represents a threat to health, in the allostatic view, the better response is to change the circumstances, lifestyle and habitat, instead of pharmacologically attempting to clamp the parameter to normal. And these guys are chiropractors and they don't know.
I love it. They clamp the parameter to normal, right? Like it's this like
drug-induced homeostasis is not health.
That's right.
People are screaming this in the literature, which chiropractors have been screaming for 100. Now, they weren't always articulate about it, but they were saying it.
But that's another, Chestnut ism. The Socrates called Chestnut. Drug-induced homeostasis isn't health.
That's the goal of medical. That's the outcome goal of big pharma and medicine. Drug-induced homeostasis.
That's not
Doesn't
health.
mean it's healthy.
No.
Just means you got a good number so they can keep feeding you.
Drug-induced homeostasis isn't health. Like, that's a table talk soundbite for the docs. That's something you could say at your health class. That's a conclusion of a point maybe you're going through for 5 minutes. Drug-induced homeostasis is not health.
And
when you borrow money but when you borrow money from the bank, that doesn't increase your wealth.
Correct.
It's actually a deficit. You actually
owe a debt. Your credit card is not financial homeostasis.
That's right. It's just the same idea.
Medical doctors believe that if they can drug someone into homeostasis or a homeostatic level on a drug test or blood pressure test or cholesterol test, they believe those people are healthier because the drug companies lie to them about the frickin' stats. Right. Relative versus absolute. So the whole system is based on fraud.
Right.
Biologically totally incongruous. It's biologically inaccurate.
Right. Oh my gosh. Like, you borrow money, it doesn't make you rich. You take medications, it doesn't make you healthy. People get on board with those sound bites. It just resonates.
Insurance companies know this, which is why someone who has drug-induced homeostasis for blood pressure and cholesterol pays more money for insurance than somebody who has lifestyle-induced homeostasis for blood pressure and cholesterol.
And the companies in America that pay for that, they know that. They want to know.
Of course they do.
They want a doctor to come
to do this big talk at this insurance thing, because they're saying, and the bottom line is the whole fucking system, excuse my language, is so frustrating because the stupidity level of these people who are arrogant and think they're right, but is so clearly fucking wrong. Yeah. Is the idea is that everybody knows that lifestyle-induced homeostasis is health and produces a better, longer life, and drug-induced doesn't. And yet the goal of medicine is drug-induced homeostasis. How fucking stupid is that?
Ladies and gentlemen, James Chestnut has arrived.
I tried my best, but I get so angry, dude, because it matters. These people are swallowing pills by the truckload every day. In every town, in every state, there's pharmacies that every morning take fire hoses full of drugs and spray them into the streets, and everybody gobbles them down. And we're sicker than we've ever been, and they do it every day, and they're told that's evidence-based healthcare. It's fraud, and it's harmful, and it will never work.
Yep. I love it. I love it. And I love when you get fired up.
Right? It's not hard to prove it. No. So anyway, I'm not going to keep. I won't. We'll talk more next time. But I've got the Hyman one. And
give me one more. How about one more for the road? Because this has been a power-packed episode.
One. So this is Hyman et al. Lifestyle Medicine Treating the Causes of Disease: Alternative Therapies in Health and Medicine, December 2010. Okay. People maybe heard of Hyman now because he's been on Tucker Carlson. He's been around with the Maha movement. But of course, I've been reading this stuff for 20 years, right? Mm-hmm. No kudos to me, kudos to him, because he's been publishing this for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, medicine wouldn't allow a lifestyle certification program. Right. I started the first one in healthcare in chiropractic. Do you know why? Because the ICA said, chiropractors, man. The ICA, the traditional sort of chiropractors said, that makes total sense. This is congruent with chiropractic and the chiropractic lifestyle. We want you to teach it. First one in the history of healthcare.
Huge.
Anyway, Hyman, quote, established financial interests drive research and delivery of care based on medication and surgery. There are no incentives to drive doctors to treat diseases with lifestyle intervention. Quote, lifestyle intervention, including science-based prescriptions for diet, exercise, and stress management, however, eat well, move well, think well, are not reimbursed or are only partially reimbursed. These therapies are low risk and effective in reversing and preventing chronic diseases. Quote, if we help patients address the real causes of diseases with lifestyle medicine, and it's not lifestyle medicine, but anyway,
right.
Lifestyle, and not just treat disease risk factors, which are simply the effects of poor lifestyle choices, with medications and surgery, we can save almost $1.9 trillion over 10 years for just 5 major diseases: heart disease, diabetes, prediabetes or metabolic syndrome, and prostate and breast cancer. Quote, The distinction between risk factors and causes is an important one. High blood pressure, dyslipidemia, and elevated C-reactive protein or glucose are not in and of themselves the real causes of chronic disease, but simply surrogate markers that are the effects of environmental toxins, what we eat, how much we exercise, and how we respond to stress. Eat well, move well, think well.
100%.
One more. Rip. Jay, by the way, the first editor of this journal. Lifestyle Medicine and Healthcare Reform, American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine, 2009. Those who might suggest that lifestyle practices such as increased physical activity, proper nutrition, and weight management should not be part of mainstream healthcare are simply ignoring the evidence-based guidelines that inform and guide our approach to the treatment of most chronic diseases today. Ladies and gentlemen, right? There's a pandemic. It's not caused by bad genes. It's caused by bad lifestyle. And the evidence is clear. When you change your lifestyle, you will change your metabolism, right? And you will change your health, and you will change the quality and quantity of your life. That's fact. Irrefutable, based on the literature, fact.
I love it. I love it. We are going to be doing our best practices seminar. This is the encore tour. So if you don't catch us here, I don't know if there's a third tour. Come check it out. November 14th, 15th in Dallas. December 5th and 6th in Sydney, Australia. February 6th, 7th in London, over in Europe. The reason I bring that up is this is just 90 minutes of power packed of what we do for 2 full days. Bring your team, bring your fresh associate, bring the associate that went to the wrong chiropractic school that's never going to hear this. How many chiropractors never heard this? But you get fired up on this stuff. You listen to James go through this. And what's nice about this is you can listen to it again and again. What we then do at best practices is he will lay down the positive pro chiropractic articles. So these articles won't be discussed at best practice. We just did it on the podcast. But then what he will do at the seminar is go through the pro chiropractic side of why we are right again and why this is the best natural healthcare system. And so this idea that we're raising the vibrational frequency of the profession, hopefully through a podcast, through information that's readily usable, distributable to your patients tomorrow, can be packaged in many different ways, from talks to table talk to digital social media, email campaigns, newsletters. It's just profound. And again, the time you put into this to organizing it so that chiropractors can organize it in their own head, I can't thank you enough. Selfishly, why I wanted to do this podcast was to be around the information, our side conversations, having a coffee early morning before a seminar because we're jet lagged, or a beer late night because we're celebrating the successes of the docs in the room. It's always fun, and it's always educational and informative. And so for that reason, dude, you're a professional treasure. I know we're good friends. You are my brother, but at the same time, it goes so well appreciated each time we get together, because I know you got more articles to go through. Maybe we carry some of those over to the next episode. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, I am. And I think, we were talking off camera at the start because I wanted to make sure, that you understood how much I appreciate your side, right? Because, Brad's the first to admit that I'm probably going to do a little more research for a podcast, and I'm probably going to talk more about, I'm going to cite more evidence in terms of the science stuff at the seminar. And I'm like, yeah, but who cares about that content if there's not a way to take it, digest it, and make it so that you get more patients through your door who get better outcomes, which is your genius, Brad. And it's funny because the truth is that, my strength is content and Brad's strength is delivery. And so even our seminars, like you're out there traveling the world doing all your stuff. And it's like, I love being free to do what I love, which is this. I love this. You can tell.
Yeah, totally.
But it's, for the years that I had to travel around and just about kill myself to do it, literally, it's, as you know, man, it's not easy. And so it makes me, because I've lived it, it makes me appreciate the efforts that you're putting in right now, even more. But what you do for me is you allow me to reach more people than I would have, right? And it's like, and I love the filter that you put people through to get to me, because it's rare that I'll even do a state association anymore, right? It's rare I do anything anymore, right? I'm a lazy old fart. But the truth is that whether I'm guest speaking at one of your seminars or the people that we're attracting to best practice, I think we both agree we love the people in the room.
Yeah.
Like they're just an awesome group of highly motivated, successful docs who aren't scumbags willing to sell anything or do anything to make a buck, but love the idea of taking really good evidence-based content to elicit great outcomes and become ethical millionaires through great incomes. And, you know, for me, Brad, the missing part has always been the reason why this, you know, the reason why I agreed to do this was because I always knew what my shortcomings were. My shortcomings are your strengths.
Right.
You know, and I've heard you say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I've heard you say, well, a lot of my strengths are some of your shortcomings, that you're totally. Just not
it's completely
right?
Complementary. And for years, I would quote you at seminars because I go, I heard this from Chestnut or Chestnut. And that's kind of what brought us together. There's many people in the audience be like, you guys need to do something together because it's the best of both parts, you know, the theory and the application. And what's cool about it is it's the science and the success. You know, it's the success and the fulfillment. It's the results that come with it. It's huge. And it's just been awesome to do these projects with you, whether it's a podcast, Chiro-Factor, or the live seminar, best practices. It's just good for the profession, 100%.
Yeah. And also you're the only one who's made it through my filter of, you know, like, I love that you do what you say, you know, that you live it in your own practice, that you're genuinely helping people, that it's a good investment for people if they coach with you. Like that matters to me a lot.
Yeah.
And as you know, I don't need the attention. I don't really need the money, and I hate travel.
Right.
So the truth is I love the chiropractors.
That's right.
Right. You know, I love seeing them get jazzed up. I love hearing the feedback that they're doing better and that their patients are doing better. That is just massively rewarding. But the truth is, you know, man, we've got it dialed in. Like you know, I'm not a braggadocious guy, but it's like, I don't know what the F you're doing like please come and check it out, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And if you don't like it, that's cool, man. Yeah. Maybe you'll take some things out and go, yeah, I got some good things out, but it doesn't resonate. That's fine, but please, because success is formulaic. Yeah. You know, you can be a happy, successful chiropractor, but it's not random chance.
Nope.
It requires knowledge, content, and delivery, and you know, I just think that this is a great opportunity for people just to come and just check it out. It's like,
and the coaching we do is wrapped around the science and the evidence you provide. So the deliverables are there, predictable results, patient care first, as we say, ethical millionaires. You know, helping a ton of people should be a reflection into your lifestyle too, not to take away from your lifestyle, but to be additive because money gives you options. You know, how you want your children to be educated. We pulled ours out of public school because in California it was knucking futs, and money gives you options, and ethical millionaires should feel good about that, which is what we're creating. So, my man, this is a powerhouse episode. This is huge. This is one worth a second and third listen, and it's free. So the freemium of what we would ask of the audience is share it, comment down below, give us some feedback. Like, we crave that because then we know we're moving the needle, and the more people you share it with, the more we can get Chestnut on Joe Rogan. Let's go! Yeah, I am going to catch a flight to Australia.
As I say, I'm very comfortable at talking about this in any venue.
Yeah,
and it's like I would just love to advocate for chiropractors.
Yeah, it's going to be a special chiropractor coming up.
Given me everything in my life, and I have a phenomenal life, and everything in it. How I raised my kids, you know. My sort of when the penny dropped for the paradigm of the, you know, from my dad, the PhD biologist, and applying biology to humans instead of pathology, and you know, like the philosophy and address the cause, and you know, like the success, you know, that I've had in the comfortable life I have, you know, and my mother has, and you know, I've bought, you know, like, you know, it's been really good to me, man.
We are blessed.
Really good to me. And I'm like, I would love to see more chiropractors have great success and have great pride in what they do. Get up every morning with just gratitude for the chance to be a chiropractor today.
Amen, man. So big. Hey, everybody, another powerful episode of the Chiro-Factor. We are on the encore tour of best practices. So one in the U.S., one in Australia, one in Europe. Come join us. I do coaching for chiropractors to increase their success and their fulfillment. And what's fun about that is it's based around the science and evidence, much of which I learned from James directly. And it's a good yin and yang. We've got a very complementary system here. We want you to be successful by your own definition. And if we can help you out, let us know. We would love to see it the best practices because there's nothing like it live. The audios are good. Come get the juice. When Chestnut's stomping around, he ain't taking votes, and it's better for you and it's better for your patients. Signing off for the Chiro-Factor, James Chestnut and myself, Dr. Brad Glowaki. We say thank you for checking us out. James, thank you, brother.
Thanks, man. I hope to see everybody in either Dallas, UK, or Sydney.
Cheers, everyone. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Chiro-Factor. We do have an episode coming up with Del Bigtree. Going to sit down and have a deep conversation about the change in the healthcare environment. You don't want to miss that one. And if you get a chance to join us for the Best Practices seminar, please do so because this is the encore performance. This is our second time around the globe. I don't know that there'll be a third time. And James Live is a professional treasure. He brings some unique characteristics in person that you just can't get or feel through the podcast. So as much as we love doing this, you're going to love it even more when you join us for the Best Practices seminar on your continent. Until next time, keep changing lives. And remember, there's many factors in health. My friends, you are the X factor. You are the Chiro-Factor.